Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Hot Topic show. We're a little bit late because we have some really important news to talk about, especially down in my home state of Louisiana. So I wanted to make sure that I had as much information as possible before I brought all of this news to you. So I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so here's what I want to say. You saw what the thumbnail says, that the president is a liar. He is a liar. This is not foreign terror. As of yet, we don't know if it's foreign terror. Well, we know it's not a foreign terrorist because the person who's accused of committing it is an American citizen, is an Army veteran. And so the president of the United States is politicizing this for political expedience, or at least he is trying to frame this in a way that is politically expedient for him and Republicans in his agenda, rather than just focusing on the tragedy, which is awful, which is the worst thing that a leader can do in this situation. So I just want to catch up, here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna be very honest with you. We're gonna give you the facts about exactly what this is and what we know about right now. Not gonna politicize it, but I will tell you that the president-elect of the United States is a liar, especially about this issue. And you should not allow him to lie about it and to get away with it. Okay, so you need to be aware. The president-elect, thank you very much for correcting me, is lying. Prayers up for New Orleans, says Cindy Turley, and I agree with that. Here's a report just to catch you up on it so you can see the horror of what happened in New Orleans. In case you've been dialed out, like many Americans this weekend, like I have, I want to catch you up. Let's start, and then we'll get into exactly what this is and why you should be concerned about it.
Chaos in the French Quarter. This truck darting around a police vehicle, then accelerating into a crowd on Bourbon Street.
It was pandemonium. It was obviously emergency vehicles everywhere. Police were everywhere. Bodies, folks were just running through the streets.
At least 15 killed, dozens injured in what the FBI has labeled a suspected terror attack.
An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle. Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle.
The suspect, identified as 42-year-old Shamsud-Din Jabbar, a U.S. citizen from Texas who spent a decade in the Army. After crashing into a roadside crane, Jabbar apparently jumping from the vehicle. And after wounding 2 officers, killed in a shootout with police. Agents now indicating he likely had help carrying out the attack.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
Law enforcement teams searching the suspect's home in Houston and the scene of an overnight fire at a New Orleans Airbnb, where investigators believe some of the explosive devices may have been assembled. 2 additional IEDs located in the French Quarter were rendered safe. The area still locked down as the investigation continues. Jay Gray, NBC News.
All right, so that is the NBC News report from New Orleans, okay? So that is what happened. Investigators are still working tirelessly to try to find anyone tied to this deadly New Year's Day attack in New Orleans. It killed at least 15 people, okay? Now, I'm going to get into the specifics in a moment, but one person who is not helping out here, and that is Donald Trump. Let me explain. Let's put up his tweet. This is what he tweeted yesterday. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and fake news media. But it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We'll get to that. Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. Perhaps that they could stop doing that by demonizing cities. Leave that up for a minute, please. Cities that they call Democrat cities instead of democratic cities. New Orleans being one of them. Chicago being another, New York being another, Los Angeles being another, Philadelphia being another. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. A way of supporting New Orleans is not to demonize it beforehand, as you have done before. That would have been a great way of helping out the situation. And you're not helping the situation by lying about what it is or what you even know at the moment about what it is. To say, and this is just a side note, that the crime rate in our country, give me some crime stats, please, producer, so that we can, fact check this. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has seen before. Yeah, at a low level that people have not seen before. Are there increases in crime in some places? But traditionally, in most major violent crime, the crime rate is low, and in many facets at its lowest that it has been. So again, one thing that he is, that's why I tell you, you can't like every tweet. Some don't matter. This one matters because it's about a very serious situation that's happening and that he's lying about. Okay. Our criminals are coming in are far worse than criminals we have in our country. This person did not come into the country. He's an American citizen. He is a veteran. So let's get to who he is. What can I tell? So here's the thing. It turned out to be true. All right, so that's his thing. So he's lying about the immigrants. Now, someone who is always taking a measured and reasonable approach, given the information that he has, is someone who is a real leader, someone who acts like a real leader and not a petulant child who is always trying to use a tragedy, never let a tragedy go to waste, to try to make himself look good because he is a small person. Violent crimes are down in San Francisco, says Renee Hutchins. Keep it coming. You guys can be my fact checkers, okay, lemonheads? M-Town Boy for you says, I mean, a criminal would know best about criminal activity, right, Donald Trump? Again, why would you do this when you don't know? Why would you bullshit people and lie about something you don't know to be true yet? Here's the current presidential acting person who is the president of the United States, Joe Biden, giving a briefing yesterday. I'm catching you up, and then I'm going to go into what's wrong with this.
Directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there is no remaining threat to the American people. To all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. The spirit of our New Orleans will never, never, never be defeated. It always will shine forth. We've seen that time and time again throughout its history. And I know we'll see it again in the days and weeks ahead.
So that is the current president of the United States trying to be a what? Counselor in chief, a truth teller in chief, a fact checker in chief. Slow your roll. Let's figure out what this is. Now, you think our government doesn't know about these terror threats? They're working all the time. It's awful that this happened, and our hearts go out to the people of Louisiana, the people of New Orleans. And trust me, this means a lot more to me than most of the people watching, because that is my home state. I reached out to the folks there who I love. Most of them, their family members are okay, but they say the same. This is awful, Don. This is terrible, a terrible way to start the New Year's. And even though my family is okay, there are a lot of folks around us whose families are not okay, and I'm thinking about them. Now, that is what selfless people do. When you are the president-elect, you're concerned about what this means for you, what you look like in all of this. And that's why you say, see, I told you. This is basically, I told you so, rather than our hearts go out to the folks. We have a problem with domestic terrorism in this country. We have a problem with terrorism all over the world. But we're going to make sure that we take care of the American people when I'm in office. That would be a very reasonable thing to tweet, to post. President Biden is being a human being first, not a hate monger, says M-Town Boy for you. And I think, CC says, I think we have 4 years of nonsense. I just can't. That's why I say you don't have to just can't. You don't have to. If you said, I just can't, you don't have to. You don't have to be in it every second. I'm not going to bombard you with all of the bullshit and all of the lies. But the things that are important, I'm going to tell you about. This is just to look how horrific this is and to think about the horror of this and how someone might try to use it for their political expedience. Let's look at this is some video, a part of the New Orleans attack on New Year's Day. Now that appears to be the beginning of it, right? And did you see those people hustle out of the way? That appears to be the gunman, reportedly from this video. There you go. Look how close the lady, the redhead lady. And it looks like it appears to be the same truck. And so the truck would be speeding away, trying to get to, one would think. But look at people scurrying to try to get to safety as this truck is making its way through, and you see the flag pole that looks like the flag belonging to the terror group. And I want to say the terror group. The terror group sounds like ICE, and then you can put another thing on it. But with these algorithms, you have to be very careful because they don't like you to say certain terms, and then you get suppressed. Okay. So for a moment, can we please not politicize the death and the sadness of the people who experience this? And we'll get to the victims in a moment. This is the suspect. He's believed to be identified as Shamsud-Din Jabbar, 42-year-old. Now, are you listening, everyone, especially you MAGA folks, you trolls? Listen to me. Because he's brown, because he has a name that's Shamsud-Din Jabbar, that doesn't make him any less American than anyone. That doesn't make him any less American than an Irish person, than an Italian person who has family. Maybe they may be first generation American or second generation American. It doesn't make him any less. Thank you, Felicia Tinsley, for your support. DJT and MTG will always spread misinformation and confuse the situation. And that is what's happening. You know why they're doing it, okay? You know why they're doing it. Thank you, Randy King. Republicans, tough on some crime in November. They're doing it because they don't want you to focus on the things that are important to you, like raising the minimum wage, like the CHIPS Act, like the Child Protection Act, right? Like your taxes. They don't want you to focus on those things. They want you to focus on the culture wars that will get you riled up so you can say, yeah, he was right, the president. They don't want you to focus on Social Security. They don't want you to focus on possibility of taking Medicare and Medicaid away. They don't want you to focus on that. They don't want you to focus on raising taxes for you and lowering them for rich people. Cecilia Coleman, you're right. And thank you for your support. Dems, next vote, get your butts out and vote. Yes. Thank you, Patty, on TikTok. Check out Don's YT channel. It's amazing. Who he's talking to. That's who I'm talking to right now on my YT channel, in case you want to know. Go there. At least 15 people were killed. Okay. Now listen to this. Again, he has been identified. Put the picture back up, please. Shamsud-Din Jabbar, 42-year-old U.S.-born citizen and U.S. Army veteran, or as you guys say, veteran, some of you, from Texas. A U.S. citizen. So when the former and president-elect tweets, when I said the criminals are coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media but it turned out to be true. No, that's a lie, because he's not coming into our country. He was born here. And he's a U.S., he served his country. You know, the folks when we see out, when most of us have contact with them, either our loved ones who come home for when they are furloughed, or they come home from, you know, when they've done their time, their service, or they, we see them for the holidays and we say, thank you for your service. We see them on airplanes and in the airports and out in public, and they're in their uniforms, and we say, thank you for your service. We celebrate Veterans Day or Labor Day, or any of the other military-related holidays. What do we say? We thank them for their service. Well, you can thank him for his service as well, because he served his country. Now, what he's accused of doing is horrific, and there is a distinction there. We can hold many thoughts in our minds at the same time. Think about, if you can, producers, I forgot to ask you this, Peter and Nikki, get me some information on homegrown terrorists or Americans who have been co-opted by forces that are overseas. Okay? Who have been co-opted by forces that are overseas, because it happens to many of them. Do you remember, gosh, why can't I think of his name, who was called the American, again, I'm worried about what I say on these things, G, and then add to that Hod. Do you remember him? Then there was the American ICE is. There have been many of them, and they're American citizens. And guess what? That is domestic terrorism, which is the #1 terror threat in the country. Now, to be honest with you, the incidents, because of the ongoing situation in the Middle East as it relates to Gaza and Israel, that has changed the dynamics of some of this. When you look at the events that happened on October 7th. U.S.-born citizen and U.S. Army veteran from Texas, according to the FBI. It happened to a crowd on Bourbon Street. Now, the truck, if you can show the truck, if you can show it again, this is for sure. If we can show that video again, this is, I know the French Quarter very well, and this is the French Quarter when you look at that video of the truck going through the street. That's the French Quarter, no doubt. Spent many there a lot. I grew up an hour down the road in Baton Rouge. We were there a lot, depending on how fast you drive. It could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, but depending on how fast you drive. 32 Antoine says, Trump didn't have the same energy when those domestic terrorists stormed the Capitol on January 6th. He is talking about pardoning them. Thank you, 32 Antoine. We're getting to that. Because they are what? Domestic terrorists. The January 6th folks. And this is the hypocrisy of the MAGA movement. Those people can't be terrorists because they were white people, mainly. But because this guy is a brown person, he's automatically a terrorist. Now, in the end, he may well and probably will be a terrorist. It's a terrorist attack. But so was January 6th. January 6th was not a terrorist attack because of white people. They were white guys, mainly, and some white women. A white woman died, remember? That's terrorism as well. That is terrorism as well. Dr. DeRico says it's time to rise up now. Dr. DeRico says the J6 insurrection was misplaced. Now it's time to rise up against Trump. Not then. So can we just be honest about this? None of it's good. No one is saying that what he did was good. But I'm just trying to get you to understand, like, you can't have two different standards for what terrorism is based on the religion or the skin color of the people accused of committing it. The efforts to try to figure out exactly who this is and if there are other people with it, they're searching two locations. There's an Airbnb in New Orleans that you saw in the report that may be tied to the suspect in the residence in Houston and has been linked to the suspect, Jabbar. The Airbnb was involved in some kind of fire or detonation earlier in the day, the sources says, which raised concerns about the possibility that there were more explosives linked to the suspect and are yet to be recovered. Okay? An ISIS flag, this is important. We're trying to figure out what this is. An ISIS flag was found on a pole on the truck's trailer hitch, and authorities are working to determine whether the deceased, pardon me for that, suspect had any affiliation with terrorist organizations. Now, they're working to figure that out, and we should all wait to see if it does. The flag is concerning, and it would indicate a connection to a foreign terror group, but this was committed on domestic soil by a U.S. citizen. Okay? Now, is this flag, as they say, a false flag? Did they do it to throw someone off? To throw people off? We don't know yet. Or is it tied to that group? Authorities do believe that Jabbar was radicalized in the last few years, and that radicalization may have been exacerbated by the Israel-Hamas war. And that is what I've been trying to tell you guys about. The FBI Director, Christopher Wray, after the Hamas-Israel war happened, warned Americans about this many different times. This is one of the times he warned Americans. This is after the October 7th.
In the United States, our most immediate concern is that violent extremists, individuals or small groups, will draw inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks against Americans going about their daily lives. That includes not just homegrown violent extremists inspired by a foreign terrorist organization, but also domestic violent extremists targeting Jewish or Muslim communities. We've already seen that with the individual we arrested last week in Houston, who'd been studying how to build bombs and posted online about his support for killing Jews. And with the tragic killing of a 6-year-old Muslim boy in Illinois in what we're investigating as a federal hate crime. But as I said a few moments ago, on top of the homegrown violent extremists and domestic violent extremist threat, we also cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil.
Okay, so they're worried about our own soil. So you hear what he said, okay? Here on our own soil. That's what they're concerned about right now. Authorities do believe Jabbar was radicalized in the last few years and that the radicalization may have been exacerbated by the Israel-Hamas war. The FBI is now studying videos the suspect appears to have recorded while driving from Texas to Louisiana. Now, Texas, you know, that red state that people will hope that will go blue. That state where they say, you know, there can't be more America in Texas, Texas, Texas. Don't tread on me. Texas did not come across the border. The suspect is not seen, but is allegedly heard talking about his divorce and about a desire to kill members of his family before ultimately deciding to carry out the attack on Bourbon Street, the sources said. So again, you don't know what is going on. If it could be related to domestic violence in some way, or maybe the person just lost it. Okay? Maybe the person just lost it. Now we have to remember what is the typical person who does this. What is the typical person? That's why I want all of you MAGA people to pay attention. Yes, and someone said on TikTok, Nasser, it was an isolated incident. It could be an isolated incident. Who knows? It's awful. It happened. Okay. I just want to read some of these things before I go on to tell you more about this. Okay. Because some of you are making some really good sense. You are put up some of the things that I just missed. Some of the folks who are responding, because I think that you are really making sense. I missed some of them. I can go back and look at them. But wow, you guys in the chats are going crazy this morning. The engagement is amazing. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up and the like button, especially if you're on the white tube, if you're on the tube. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. I appreciate your support of independent media. I want to get some of these things up because I've been missing it. I think your comments have been really great. Dale Shen says, keep up the good work, Don. Thank you so much, Dale. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your support of independent media. But there was another person who said something that I thought was really important here as it relates to what's going on. With most of legacy media bending the knee because of their oligarch owners, what honest media outlets can we turn to for real news? Me? Independent journalists you can turn to for real news? Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the legacy organizations do amazingly well, especially with foreign journalism. But I do think that you have a point about bending the knee and complying in advance, even before this administration gets into power, before they enter the Oval Office. Thank you, Matthew Yates. I appreciate it. So glad that you broke the chains of that legacy media had on you, and now you can truly speak the truth to power. Thank you. And I can also interact with you and read your comments because this is my platform. I can do whatever I want to do with it. If I want to shout you out, I can. But I do appreciate your support because we don't have the big corporations behind us, and they don't like people who tell the truth. They want the people who spread all the lies and misinformation, and that's who they want to give the money to, especially the billionaires. Law enforcement always working behind the scenes. We should never know everything. We don't know everything, but they are always working behind the scenes. And the FBI director said as much in all of the briefings that he has been giving recently about this attack. I'm so glad that you were here. Thank you so much because you guys are wanting truth, and I'm seeing it in your comments this morning that you want the truth and you don't want the spin. So if you don't want the truth and if you want the truth and you don't want the spin, then you need to follow our content. You need to subscribe. You need to become a member. Subscribing is free. You can become a member easily as well. And we'll tell you how you can do that at the end. But you need to, and this is where we are going to tell you the truth, no matter what. And if you are a part of, especially if you are a member here or if you're a subscriber, you know that. Some folks are just finding out how much we tell the truth here, just how spicy our shows are, and especially our live streams, our live private streams. It's so nice to be able to interact with you. Don, it's a cool thing, Casual Observer. Yes, it is. And I know if you're just watching this and you're used to this sort of traditional sort of show where everyone's good evening and hello, and let me tell you about this, and then you play the sound. But no, I'm going to read your comments and I'm going to interact. I'm also going to talk to the haters and to the misinformed. I don't mind. Sunny Days says on TikTok, Don got fired by CNN. Haha. Sunny Days, yeah, it's true, but you don't know why. And perhaps that was for telling the truth. Perhaps it was not for allowing election deniers and liars to spew lies and hate. And so here we are. Sunny Days, you think that's an own. That's not an own. And by the way, for the folks who are on here saying, oh my God, TikTok, you need money. No, I don't have to work. Do not get it twisted, okay? I don't. I do this because I want to do it, because it's a passion. And I get to do it either in my studio for you haters or at home or wherever. If I'm on vacation, I get to do this. If I'm traveling somewhere, I get to do this. I covered some of the election for my vacation in Italy. Okay, so don't get it twisted. You think you know what you're talking about, but you don't. I'm doing this because I have a passion for truth telling, I have a passion for journalism, and I have a passion to tell the truth. Thank you. Who was that who said that about T.S. Madison? And T.S. Madison is exactly right. The quote, I won't say it here, but you know what T.S. says. Sierra Leone says, tell them, Don, in the T.S. Madison voice. If you don't know who that is, check it out. So I do this because it's a passion, and because I love it, and because I want people to be informed. And because at a time right now when the media should be the strongest, I feel that it is the weakest. I think that, and I know, and I can't blame some of my colleagues, and I don't mean just at my place, I mean in general, because they're concerned about what's happening in Washington, that they're going to get in trouble, they'll be audited, or the corporate owners will get upset if they say something too controversial about the administration. Like, they have those restraints and constraints and parameters that I don't have, and people in independent media don't have. And the difference with me is that I come from a traditional journalism background, so I always want to tell you the truth. And if I get it wrong, I'm going to apologize. But I'm not just going to give you some conspiracy theory or just some opinion that's not based in fact. And I'm glad that C.C. Kane, or whatever, your names are crazy. You give the woke hope that truth telling is still worthy. Yes, and we know the real meaning on this network of woke, not the co-opted meaning. So let's get back to this. Now, remember, again, as I've been saying, this is right now a person that they would consider a domestic terrorist, if it indeed turns out to be that, it looks like that's where it's going, that this would be a domestic terrorist. This person, he would not be considered foreign, but perhaps ties to foreign terrorism. Now, we don't know. We don't know. After barreling through the crowd over a 3-block stretch, the suspect allegedly got out of the truck, wielding an assault pew-pew, or wielding a pew-pew, opened fire on police. They returned the fire and unalived the person. At least 2 police officers were injured. And then you had all the authorities getting out there doing their thing over the weekend. And then you had some of the senators out there with their fake Louisiana accents, because most of like when I listen to these senators, I'm like, where are they from? Louisiana, where they're from like that. They don't even sound like Louisiana people. It sounds like fake accents to me. My mom called me and said, I heard this, why did they even let these senators come on television to talk about these things when they had no idea what they were talking about? It was clearly politically motivated. They should have just stuck to the experts. Instead of these people coming on TV, and you're like, what is he talking about? And trying to connect it to some sort of foreign terrorist operation. Now, let me just say, maybe in the end it could be. I don't know. But if it is, then we'll go from there. Foghorn Leghorn, Mark Sandstrom. Exactly. We got to get these people out of our country. I'm like, I don't know anybody in Louisiana who sounds like this. And no, look, don't think that I'm being an elitist or even racist about Louisiana. That's where I'm from, and I know how people talk. I mean, it may sound like, hey, Shad, that you down there from down in the bayou where my stepdad is from, down in Gramercy and Lutcher, down there in Reserve. Now they talk like that. But that's all. I never heard that shit growing up. I heard people talk, they long everything and they got a lazy tongue, but what is that? So, right. So I'm glad you brought that up because this FBI director tells the truth. And by the way, this FBI director is a Republican, Christopher Wray, and was put in place by Donald Trump after James Comey was fired. After Trump fired Comey, he put a Republican in charge of the FBI. That Republican, Christopher Wray, didn't say exactly what Donald Trump wanted him to say because Christopher Wray is committed to the truth and took an oath as the FBI director to tell the truth. Donald Trump wants him fired because he doesn't necessarily give the narrative that Donald Trump wants him to give. Is that the same FBI director that Trump wants to fire? That is the same FBI director, Carly, and thank you for your support of independent media, that Donald Trump wants to fire. That's the one, because he tells the truth. Christopher Wray, a Republican appointed by Donald Trump, who has a 10-year term guaranteed, but Donald Trump has pushed him out. And Christopher Wray, who has said, I'm leaving because I don't want to get that. I don't want to screw this up for the American people. By the way, my dogs are going nuts. Someone at the door. I think there's a repair person coming over, so you can hear my dogs. But anyways, so aside from Don Lemon, I suggest The Guardian, Al Jazeera, Midas Touch, the BBC, and The Atlantic. Also known quantities on Blue Sky. Thank you for that. I agree with all of those. Now, The Guardian is amazing. Midas Touch is amazing. The BBC, of course, stands on its own. The Atlantic is fantastic. And Al Jazeera does great stuff with foreign news. And you get a different perspective that comes from the perspective of someone who is in the region and who has strong reporting from that region. Now, speaking of Christopher Wray, who this president wants to fire, this is what Christopher Wray said about terrorism at a conference not long ago.
Protecting Americans from terrorist attack, both domestic and international, remains the FBI's #1 priority. And when it comes to domestic terrorism specifically, I think a lot of people, it's been on the news a lot more in the last year or so, but we elevated that to what we call a national threat priority all the way back in summer of 2019, specifically racially motivated violent extremism, the vast majority of which is people who are advocating the superiority of the white race. So that's all the way back to summer of 2019, and we actually had a significant growth in domestic terrorism cases throughout my first 3 years, so 2017 to 2020.
Pause, please.
It grew quite significantly.
I want you guys to really listen to this, okay? Especially, I want the MAGA folks to listen to this. Please, Andy, let's back it up because I want you to get the full effect on this, okay? I want you to get the full effect, and I want you to listen to when he said the terrorism instances increased, okay? Now think about who took office during these times. Okay? Play it again, please, Andy. Thank you.
Protecting Americans from terrorist attack, both domestic and international, remains the FBI's #1 priority. And when it comes to domestic terrorism specifically, I think a lot of people, it's been on the news a lot more in the last year or so, but we elevated that to what we call a national threat priority all the way back in summer of 2019, specifically racially motivated violent extremism, the vast majority of which is people who are advocating the superiority of the white race. So that's all the way back to summer of 2019.
Okay, that's summer of people who are what? Advocating the superiority of the white race. Now, I don't say that because it's like, oh, see him because I'm racist. Those are the facts, and that's what people don't understand. Folks who are advocating the what? The superiority of the white race. That's most of the terrorism in the country. That is most of it. Get it through your heads, January 6th apologists. And so if we are in this together, then we should be fighting for what? That we're all safe, that no one is advocating for superiority through violence in this country. Instead, people are making excuses for it. Oh, it's okay because they're white people attacking the Capitol. That's terrorism. Those are people who are advocating for the superiority of white people. And that's what the director, Christopher Wray, has been trying to get through everyone's heads. And it is one of the reasons that I believe, let's say reportedly or allegedly, that Donald Trump wants to get rid of him because he's bringing these facts to light and they don't want to hear it. So Trump will pardon them. So would you want Trump, if this person turns out to be a terrorist, would you want Donald Trump pardoning him? So if you don't want Donald Trump pardoning him, then you should not want Donald Trump pardoning the January 6th people, because they too are what? Terrorists. They too are terrorists. Let's keep going with Christopher Wray, please.
And we actually had a significant growth in domestic terrorism cases throughout my first 3 years, so 2017 to 2020.
Are you listening?
It grew quite significantly.
Pause.
Then, of course, you have January
2017 through that 2020, it grew significantly. Just back it up a little bit because he's going to start talking about January 6th. It increased significantly from 2017 to 2020. Who was in office then? What kind of rhetoric was he spreading? What kind of lies were coming from that administration? All of these Muslim bans. When the actual real threats were not coming from overseas. Let's go.
It grew quite significantly. Then, of course, you have January 6th, and obviously the numbers since then are even greater. We have since, you mentioned two categories. There's the racially motivated violent extremism, then we have anti-government, anti-authority violent extremism. That too now is also at a national highest level threat priority on the same footing as something like ICE.
Okay, so there you go. So racist terrorism was number one. But since January 6th, not only the racist domestic terrorism or attacks, anti-government, anti-authority, which there's a correlation if you actually look at Luigi Mangione. Anti-authority, anti-system, anti-the man, anti-the man, anti-the system, anti-the authority of the government. Why? Because our governmental institutions have been attacked, under attack. Who has done that? What administration did that? What person did that? Attacked the institution of journalism. Attacked the judiciary, the judicial system. Attacked the legislative branch. And when he's not in the Oval Office, attacks the executive branch. But only when he's not there. So let's just be clear about what is going on here. Okay? And the reason that I'll keep saying this, the reason they're doing it is because they don't want you to focus on the things that are real and that affect your daily life. They want to get you spun up about culture wars and brown people and black people, and this person's a lib and that person's not MAGA enough and that person's not concerned. And you keep worrying about that and you keep fighting about that. When if all of the folks who are watching this, who are women, who are black people, who are brown people, who are Asian people, who are poor people, wealthy people, somewhere in between, if you could all get together and realize the truth and how you're being lied to and manipulated and co-opted, then we would all be stronger for it. And there would actually be some real change that would happen. But instead you get spun up about white people and black people, and they're taking our jobs, and this person's taking our jobs, and they're coming across the border, and they're trying to kill us, and they're trying to do all this. They're spinning you up, idiots. MAGA, so that to keep you all spun up and confused and not paying attention to what you should be focused on. Poor people of all different ethnicities have more in common than some rich person who has their own plane, who is trying to keep you in the dark, to keep themselves in power and keep them out of jail or prison. You will not hear this on the mainstream media. Because what? Look at the people who are donating money to this administration. You will not hear this. Don't mess up our stuff in Washington. We got to get business to it. We got to get our mergers and acquisitions. Oh, no. You will not hear this. But it is the truth. Now, again, Christopher Wray is saying domestic terrorism on the rise from 2017 to 2020. And then because of what? Racist attacks, racism. And then in 2020, after January 6th, anti-government, anti-authority. Why? Because he wasn't in office anymore. And the people who were in charge of the government, they did not like him. So what? They started to attack the government. It's so simple. And now he's using this to get you all spun up about the other. Let's continue.
Threat priority on the same footing as something like ISIS. What all these threats have in common, especially if you consider that I was, just talking a lot about 9/11, it helps to understand both what the threat is, but also how, to your question, how the public can help. The 9/11 attack, you're talking about like a sleeper cell, in effect, 19 people plus some others. Who plotted some spectacular attack that was incredibly complicated over years. What we have now is more and more people who are lone actors, or maybe at most working with one or two other people, and they're not doing some spectacular attack. They're using an easily accessible weapon like a gun, a knife, a car, a crude IED you could find out how to build on the internet. And they're attacking not the World Trade Center with a commercial airliner. They're attacking what the intelligence community calls soft targets, which is basically just jargon for everyday people living their everyday lives. And these are people who are radicalizing not in some cave in Afghanistan, they're radicalizing online. And the reason I say all that is because they go from radicalization to mobilization not over years, but in weeks. And so you've all heard that expression about connecting the dots, the importance of connecting the dots. Well, the kind of terrorist threat we're dealing with now, especially here in the U.S., there are not a lot of dots. There's not a lot of people involved, not a lot of planning involved. So every dot in that situation becomes that much more important. And so it could be that the FBI only has one dot and some member of the public has the other dot. They saw something about a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, something that they knew was off.
Okay, pause.
Or it could be a business. Some guy comes.
So this was, I believe, done in either early 2024 or late 2023. He is prescient. He told you exactly the kind of terror attacks that one could expect in the United States. So as awful as this is, we should not be surprised, because Christopher Wray, the FBI director that Trump doesn't want in there anymore, is what? Speaking truth, spitting facts. And for those of you in the chat who are saying, I'm giving you fake news, it's not fake. It's real. I'm backing up with, I'm showing you the evidence. That's the one thing I understand about MAGA folks. You can show them the evidence. You can give them the number, the statistics. You can point out the real people who have lost, the lives that are lost, the real people who have committed and been convicted of terrorism, and they still don't believe the facts. What does that say about you if you don't believe that? Now you're hearing the head, a Republican of the FBI, telling you what it is. And you still don't believe it. And you still say it's fake news. You still say it's fraudulent. What does that mean? Because Donald Trump tells you something else. That means that you're in a cult. That's a cult mindset. When you don't believe facts and you don't believe evidence, that means it is a cult mindset. Kylie Karma says, so the U.S. could possibly be less safe by Trump replacing him with an unqualified DEI loyalist? Scary times. Thank you. And thank you, Sabrina 9, for becoming a member. And thank you, Kathy Gordine, for becoming a member of the download. And thank you, Sherry, for your support of independent media. I appreciate that. And by the way, I just want to shout out Twinkie67. Very generous. We appreciate it. Melissa Parrish became a member as well. Thank you. So did Marie Mandang. These are members on YT, and their comments get prioritized on the channel because they are members. Sam Morgan, thank you for your support as well. Astro Mitch Jeremy, thank you for your support. The rewinding and reiterating of the video that you're doing is exactly the teaching vibe half the country needs. Yes, it does. Samantha Pruitt, thank you. Can we back this up, Andy, a little bit? I want to get to the part where he starts to talk about the kind of terror that we're dealing with now. Just to get, because remember, this was way before this. Back it up and I'll tell you where it is. Because he brings a very good point. Very good point. Let's see where we are now here.
On the same footing as something like ISIS. What all these threats have in common, especially if you consider that I was just talking a lot about 9/11, it helps to understand both what the threat is, but also how, to your question, how the public can help. The 9/11 attack, you're talking about like a sleeper cell, in effect, 19 people plus some others who plotted some spectacular attack.
Not what's happening now.
Incredibly complicated over years. What we have now is more and more people who are lone actors, or maybe at most working with one or two other people, and they're not doing some spectacular attack. They're using an easily accessible weapon like a gun, a knife, a car, a crude IED you could find out how to build on the internet.
Okay, and then
and they're attacking not the world.
So they're attacking us, and then, or they go in and they get upset with the boss. That's where he was going when I had it earlier. They go in and they're upset with the boss, so they attack a business. So that is what's going on now. So for you people who say, well, you're glad that he's getting rid of Christopher Wray, or that Christopher Wray is somehow some deep state person. Everything that he just said is what's happening now. So where is the lie in what Christopher Wray is saying? And why wouldn't you want someone like him to be the head of the FBI if what he's saying is so prescient and is playing out exactly as he has said it? Because he knows what's happening behind the scenes. He knows what the truth is. He knows the threat of domestic terror. He knows that these people are co-opted online through the internet. He knows about that, even through social media, which is why content moderation is so important, and it's not censorship. There's a difference between content moderation and censorship. And it is why these social media sites have terms of services, or whatever you want to call them, the rule, what you have to do in order when you enter their house, you enter the social media platform. That you should not be spreading misinformation, trying to co-opt people into doing terroristic things by lying, by being racist. That's not censorship. It's called content moderation. So why wouldn't you want someone like him? Is because you have MAGA brain. You have been co-opted by a cult leader, a cult of personality, and you can't think beyond your own little measly brain about, oh, this will own the libs, and I can't believe it that these libs and all these people coming across the border. That ain't it. That ain't it. The people coming across the border, we have been told just within the last couple of days that, well, maybe that's not the kind of immigrants they want. They want the other immigrants, the other brown immigrants that can help them with their tech businesses, that can help them become billionaires or possibly trillionaires. But when we want the good immigrants, the good brown people, not those brown people that come across the border, not the people who keep our farmers in business, not the people who keep the service industry in business, not the people who keep the grocery stores open, the restaurants open, the hotels open, not the people who do the hard work of making sure that groceries and goods and products get to your table in your home. No, we don't want those people. Now, what does that say? Who are they looking out for if they're not trying to figure out a way to help to incorporate and assimilate those people into society in a productive way? Who are they trying to help? Because if you don't have those people, then you're going to pay more for the goods and services, or they're not going to be available. And then you'll have a supply chain issue. And then you'll have what? Like we have now, a shortage of goods, which will cost you more. It will be terrible for the economy. So you have to figure out a way to reform and overhaul the system, and you will not be able to deport all the people that you promised, that you people fell for. You believe that he was going to deport them. And the folks who said, well, if he's going to deport them, then you're going to be in a world of trouble and a world of hate. Remember when there were no groceries in the grocery stores? Do you know whose watch that happened on? Donald Trump's. Because he handled the pandemic so poorly that we had supply chain issues, that we did not have groceries in our grocery stores. And right now people are saying, oh my God, the cost of eggs. And you know what the cost of eggs are? It's because of the bird flu. But remember, those things are fake. They're not real. Like there's no bird flu, right? I'm sure there's no whatever. That's why, because there's a shortage of those things. Milk, eggs, all of that. Why? That's why they cost so much. It's not because Joe Biden is manipulating the price of eggs or any of the goods. Guys. Oh boy. Let's see where I am. So Christopher Wray has been telling the truth for so many, many things. Can we, Andy, fast forward where he starts talking about businesses? Where I cut it off, I'm not sure. I hate to keep you going through that. But when he starts to talk about businesses as well on the internet. And the reason I don't know if you can get it to that point. So let's play this and then you can cue it up to that point, because again, this is where Christopher Wray was prescient.
Situation becomes that much more important. And so it could be that the FBI only has one dot and some member of the public has the other dot. They saw something about a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, something that they knew was off. Or it could be a business. Some guy comes in and wants to buy a whole lot of fertilizer and ball bearings and doesn't seem to know anything about farming. We want the guy at the hardware store to say, that seems odd, and calling law enforcement. Or some guy who's seems to be a tourist, but the only thing he wants to take pictures of are like the undergirding of a bridge. That's weird, right? So you all heard that expression, if you see something, say something. We need people not just to see something like a bag that's left unattended in the bus terminal. If you see something about somebody, either in the kind of examples I just gave, or because so much of this is happening online, if you see something about somebody online, to call law enforcement. That's how we make sure we've got the eyes and ears to make sure that we connect the dots, because there's a lot fewer dots and there's a lot less time in which to connect them.
Okay, so here's the thing, y'all. And the reason I'm playing that is because I just want you to see how level-headed Christopher Wray is. And this is a person that he wants to get rid of. Now, look, I don't know Christopher Wray. I don't think I've ever met the man. But I do know what he has said and what he has done for the country in his service. And I remember, guys, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm independent. So for those of you who want to call me like a big lib or a Democrat, or for those of you who want to call me like a conservative black man or whatever, I have some liberal tendencies and I have some conservative tendencies. I have a brain. It's not MAGA brain. I don't have that disease, particular disease or affliction, excuse me. I have a brain that tells me common sense, and I can, this Democrat is lying to me. This Republican is lying to me. Most of the time, Donald Trump is lying. If his mouth is moving, then he's lying most of the time. Even when he was asked about the H-1B visas the other day, and he said, I stand by them. I love them. When there is videotape of him saying how awful they are, and he uses them, but they need to be gotten rid of. You guys didn't see that? We played it here on this very channel. Oh, I love the H-1B visas. Well, sir, skirt, skirt, as we say, back up. Then why did you say this about it? No one asked him. I saw them ask him, and I was like, did not one reporter say, but you said this about them not so long ago when you were running? Why? Because was that politically expedient, and you thought that people would vote for you and you would get more MAGA supporters if you said immigration bad? And by the way, I want to welcome all the new members that we have. I'm being told that we have lots of new members, and I appreciate it. Thank you for becoming a member. It means a lot. You will get priority here. You will get to speak to me in private ways that most people do not get to speak to the people who deliver them the news. Thank you, Donna Watson, for your generous support of independent media. That's what will happen. Astromech Jeremy says, nothing will change as long as the spin maintains our current two realities. Thank you. And thank you for your support. So they were talking about what you can do, right? Thank you, Veracity Key 2020 for your support. Here's what because we're talking about when you see something, say something. It's not just a bag or whatever. And if you see an individual in your life, and this goes beyond this could be a person of any ethnicity, because people are co-opted very easily online through digital, the internet, digital, and social media. I want people to get that into their heads. That's why we need content moderation. That's why you need to hire people who can fact check things for you. Make sure it's true before it goes out there. Someone needs to be minding the store. I hate it when people say, well, we just want everything to go through because we're free speech absolutists. Okay, then, I'm a grocery store absolutist. I think the grocery store should have every single product that I want. But someone has to be minding the grocery store. Someone has to be picking out the apples that have gone bad, or the things that are expired, or the things that shouldn't be in the store, or the bullshit that the stuff that nobody's buying this, let's get rid of it. See what I'm saying? Works the same way. So this is video of the suspect on the YT, on the tube, talking about his real estate business. Here we go.
Shamsud-Din Jabbar, property manager with Blue Meadow Properties and team lead at the Midas Group at Core Realty. I just want to say hello and let you know a little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So okay, I've taken those skills and applied them to.
I keep going. I want to listen to that. But then I want you to get ready, Andy, and guys, I want to see the picture, the sort of mugshot photo they have of him, and then after this, so that you can see what happened to this person. But keep going.
As a real estate agent, where I feel like what really sets me apart from other agents is my ability to be able to, one, be a fierce negotiator. So not only do I brilliantly market your property to make sure it gets sold as quickly as possible or gets leased as quickly as possible. But I'm also going to take every ounce of energy and putting it into negotiating for you and for your property to get the best deal that.
Okay. So they say that is him. Now, can you freeze the other one too and do them back and forth? I don't know. You can't do a full screen, a side by side here. Now, that doesn't even look like the same person to me. Let's see the other gentleman, the other thing, the other man.
Shamsud-Din Jabbar, property manager with Blue.
Now look at that. Now put up the other one, please. What happened to him? If it is, pardon me, if it is what they say it is, what happened in this time for this veteran who grew up as I think he said Beaumont, Texas, right? What happened to him? Obviously, when someone does something like this, I think that there is some sort of mental issue. Something's going on. Somebody has had a break. Something. Is it post-traumatic stress disorder? Is it just a mental break? Did he get upset by the system? How was he co-opted? How does a person like this become involved with the flag? Was he going into the dark recesses of the internet? Was it through social media? What happened? Was it a domestic violence thing? And the flag was being used to throw them off the scent? I don't know. Or was it just plain old long? He was playing the long game. But how is this born in America? This is bizarre. Susan McIntosh, one of our members, thank you for your support. I am concerned about our military veterans being radicalized. Do you need to give more psych support to them? Yes, Susan, 100%. And often members of our military become radicalized. They see things that we don't see. They come home and they feel that they may not have the support that they need. Especially those who have served and who are in active zones, war zones, are facing traumas and disorders and anguish that we don't even know about. And where this money needs to go to support our veterans and our military folks are the people who have never served a day in their lives. Are the members of DOJ going to cut that funding for the mental health of our veterans? I believe they might want to. So for all of you supporters, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Now, be honest with me. If you guys saw these two pictures, like, it doesn't even look like the same person. Because look at the gray in the goatee. I don't see any gray in the other beard. And now you can color it. Don't get me wrong, I know that. But the nose appears to be the same. The ears appear to be the same. What do you guys think? Does it even look? And look, obviously they're saying that these are the same people. People change this East Coast transplant. People say the same. Guys, I totally forgot this. We need the Las Vegas stuff, please. We need the Las Vegas stuff. Because they are trying to investigate to see if that is indeed as well an act of terrorism. And there is new information coming in regarding that. We need the video of it and something to speak on. But think about it, did that look like the same person to you? People can change. Let's go to the comments now. How long ago was that video, says Bonica Stubbs? I'm not exactly sure. That video is from the internet. He looks down and very different, says Linda Furker. He was arrested back twice. Yes, he has 2 arrests in his background. We're going to get to more of him. Lisa G said there's something about divorce. That was Margarita on the Rocks. Thank you very much for that. The eyes are the same, says Maureen. Yes. Nappy Child says there's a conference now. Andy, I don't know if you have that. But everyone is trying to figure that out. Exactly what happened with that. I'm just trying to get more information. He was earlier enlisted in the Navy in August of 2024, though he never went to boot camp and was discharged from a delayed entry program 1 month later. That's according to a Navy spokesman. He is believed to have been discharged honorably from the Army, though investigators still are looking into his military record. This is his military background. He served in human resources and information technology role in the Army. Nikki, if we have it, can we put it up if we do that? He served in the Army from 2007 to 2015, during which he was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010. An Army spokesman confirmed to ABC.
As he made his way to New Orleans.
Let's listen.
FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers, one from the cross section of Bourbon and Orleans Street, and the second at an intersection approximately 2 blocks away. There were multiple reports of other devices. Those reports turned out to be misinformation or not actual functioning devices. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing Jabbar placing the devices where they were found. 2 other, as I said before, 2 other items of interest were determined not to be IEDs. A little bit about Jabbar. Jabbar himself was born in the United States and is a U.S. military veteran. We are looking in everything in his life. While we have interviewed many people who know Jabbar, we still need to talk to others. Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you. You may not think you have relevant information, but what you know could tie in to one of our investigative leads. Specifically, we want to talk to anyone who was in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve or early on New Year's Day. That includes people spotted near one of the 2 IEDs on Bourbon Street. The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way. Let's be clear. Again, we do not believe at this point these people are involved in this incident in any way. We want to speak to them as witnesses and want to know what they saw and when. I went down to the crime scene last night. It is very hard to put into words what it looked like and how difficult it was to see. Anyone with information can call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or send digital tips to fbi.gov/Bourbon Street attack. Early this morning, evidence response teams finished their work at the crime scene. Bourbon Street has been turned over to the city of New Orleans. As you know, there's also an FBI investigation in Las Vegas. We are following up on all potential leads and not ruling everything out. However, at this point, there is no definitive link between the attack here in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas. And again, I'll preface everything with what I started with in the beginning, which was this is very early in an investigation like this. Again, our thoughts and our prayers are with the victims of this tragedy and everyone impacted across the country. They remain at the heart of our investigation. I also, although I've only been on the ground here a short time, I also want to express a sincere appreciation for our partners here, which include the U.S. Attorney's Office, HSI, ATF, the New Orleans PD, the Louisiana State Police, the Governor's Office, and countless others. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Special Agent in charge of ATF here, Josh Jackson.
Hey, good afternoon. As stated, my name is Joshua Jackson. I am the Special Agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. And ATF's primary mission is preventing, reducing, and solving violent crime throughout the United States and abroad. Solving part is the focus of this investigation. ATF resources that have been brought to bear to the city and to focus with our federal, state, and local partners have been our national response team. We spoke about the scene that's still being processed now. The national response team of ATF is a team of certified fire investigators, certified explosive specialists, fire engineers, electrical engineers. These folks will give us additional investigative leads to help the investigative team identify what happened at the location in Mandeville and identify how that fire started and move the investigation forward from there. Additional resources that ATF has brought to bear into the city. There's our ATF Special Response Team. This is a tactical team capable of handling any sort of enforcement operation. This team is deployed, on set, and ready for the Sugar Bowl today. This team is also made available to the Louisiana State Police and also New Orleans Police Department to assist with any efforts that they may have during this period. Additional resources, as the governor alluded to, he executed executive powers and had an emergency declared to where ATF was able to tap in to Emergency Support Function 13 resources. This allowed us to bring additional explosive detection canines so that we can safely sweep the city and safely sweep the Super Bowl in preparation for the game today. These resources will still be in the city as we lead up to the Super Bowl and through Mardi Gras. These type of ATF resources will be here. The last resources ATF has brought to bear, and probably the most important one, is our victim witness coordinators. These folks come in and they provide resources to the victims and the family members that have suffered greatly during this tragedy. The entire city hurts, but the victims and the family members are in need of resources and care long after this investigation wraps up. This time next year to be hard for the families and friends who suffered during this event. So our victim witness coordinators are working with the FBI, the city of New Orleans coordinators to provide resources to these folks out here. And as we move forward, ATF will be committed. We will work with the investigative team moving this investigation forward, but also we'll be here to make sure the city is safe and prepared as we move into the Super Bowl. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our mayor of this great city, New Orleans. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much.
I had been wondering where the mayor was, and here
Good morning.
I want to listen to the mayor, and then we'll get back to it.
And I just want to just echo my thank yous to the unified command of our law enforcement partners and at every single level, federal, state, and governor. Governor, thank you for your partnership. Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank the residents and the visitors of the city of New Orleans for your patience, for your support, and most of all, your prayers. Our hearts and prayers continue to go out to the victims' families. And the city of New Orleans, we're resilient. And as I stated on yesterday, my focus in terms of a priority has been on our victims. As you heard, that yes, the FBI was able to clear Bourbon Street. And what that meant also for me in this city was that we were able to remove our victims, identify them, and notify their families. Real reverence. They mattered, the families matter, and matter to the city of New Orleans. In addition to that, I want to just thank again our federal partners in Washington, listening to my plea personally for the additional resources to allow for the scene to be cleared, and again, attending to our victims. I walked by each one and I did the sign of cross in my own way because reverence, again, is important. So while we have been able to have Bourbon Street return back to the city of New Orleans, and the due diligence has been done, that then allowed me to give the go-ahead to begin the cleaning of Bourbon Street. That started happening in the morning about 2 a.m. It was completed before 8 a.m. this morning. But that has really set the tone, I would say, and with the confidence that I have in the law enforcement partners, all of the resources that have been activated, how we have made sure that safety continues to be our top priority, how our assets have been deployed strategically, again, for the safety and the protection of our visitors and our residents in the city. And because of that, the confidence is there to reopen Bourbon Street to the public prior to game time today. The first order will be to allow for vendors to come in and service the businesses. That's important in order for us to stand up activation, as you know, Governor. And so with that, I want to reassure the public that the city of New Orleans is not only ready for game day today, but we're ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn. I want to, again, thank all of those who responded to the FBI's call for information and tips. As you heard, that has been useful. Continue to do that. The investigation is still active and absolutely under the FBI's leadership. We will continue to operate and cooperate as we always have. So I want to also thank all of our partners for the added resources for victim and crisis management. We know that that's, again, important. Working with our partner, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, we have set up a fund for our victims' families for not only today, but into the future. As you heard, this is going to be a long process for our people. So with that, the city of New Orleans, and with all of my confidence, we are ready. And we could not get here, again, without the unified presence, support, and cooperation. We are stronger together. And I want to say again, thank you so much. Thank you, Governor. So once again, the governor would like me to reiterate that Bourbon Street will be prepared for full activation before game time today. We know 3 p.m., so we're working towards 2:30 p.m. But prior to game time, the kickoff, Bourbon Street will be restored. So we're hard at work now. Our teams are now, and of course, working with our business community to serve our public and serve our residents and our visitors alike.
In closing, I want to rest people assured that right now in the city of New Orleans, there is an unprecedented amount of law enforcement resources that are being utilized to close out and to hunt down and to finalize this investigation. I want to thank the FBI and all of our federal partners for the amount of resources they have poured into the city. This type of event can happen in any city. And that's the tragedy of it. And I think it's important for people to understand that to protect our citizens in America from evil, you have to crush it. You can't go out there and placate it. You can't go out there and say, oh, I'm going to put this in place and that in place and hope that evil doesn't show up on your doorstep, because it will. You have to crush it. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to put it all behind us. We're going to continue to keep the victims, those that are in the hospital, either fighting for their lives or trying to recover, in our thoughts and in our prayers. But you know, this morning, and I don't want to single out just one news source, but I just happened to turn on Fox and Friends, and that was a young man who was interviewed, who was actually on Bourbon Street during this horrific act of terrorism. And they closed out by asking him, "What now?" And I think he summed it up. He said, "Look, we can't live in fear because fear will paralyze us." He said, "We come down to the city to enjoy ourselves and to entertain ourselves and to be with our friends and with our families because that's who we are." Louisiana invented hospitality. The people in this city care for each other. And believe you me, we care about each one of the lives that were lost in this city in that. We will never forget them. But it would be a tragedy if we let their losses be snuffed out because of fear. This city will be back. We'll be open to family and friends and loved ones who want some time to relax from the pressures of life. And so today, we're going to have us a sugar bowl. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to keep those, again, who have lost loved ones in mind. And we're going to get on to the business of this city and this great country. With that, I'll take any questions.
Governor, this is for you and the assistant director. The message is really changing.
I really want to hear some of the questions here. I hope they ask the right questions, and we're going to review and talk about that.
That he did not act alone, that he likely had help, and now you're coming out the very next day and saying he was a lone wolf, everything is safe, the game moves on, everybody had a good time. How can you be so sure just 12 hours later?
Well, we're going to bring him up. All right. But here's what I want to remind everyone. Like I was a deputy sheriff. Right. I worked in a jail. I worked on the street. I worked on the interstate. I served warrants. I can tell you. Look, in today's world, I get it. Information, we get information like that. Everybody lives in a 15-second TikTok video. We think that life operates like it does on our phones, and it just doesn't. Information changes. In fact, that's why we ask the media for patience. We get information, like I said, putting that. No one dumps 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and puts it together in 5 seconds. Okay? And what I would tell you is that I appreciate the fact that what we did was we're under-promising and over-delivering today. And I think that's important. And I want to remind something. Look, because over the last decade, law enforcement has taken it on the chin unfairly. And there are great men and women serving in the FBI, in ATF, in Louisiana State Police, in New Orleans PD. Our sheriffs have been unbelievable in this. And I tell you, they want to protect you all. And we have to trust them. And sometimes the information we put out, we end up finding out that it may be incorrect. But guess what? What we're doing here is something I think is important. It's called transparency. And look, something may change again. Here's what I do know, though. Right now, this is one of the safest places on earth. That doesn't mean that nothing can't happen.
Thank you, Governor. And to echo exactly, I think the governor put it eloquently, as could be said. In a lot of these instances, I also had the opportunity to deploy to Boss Bomb, and I will tell you, this is almost carbon copy to Boss Bomb as far as the inaccurate reporting that comes up. And what the governor said is, we want to be transparent with the public. Years of the FBI not being transparent, we're being as transparent as we possibly can. And unfortunately, as we're being transparent, unfortunately for that, there is some information that we have to go back and recorrect. And in this particular incident, you heard the resources that we brought, that the other state and locals have brought. We've had 24 hours now to go through media, to go through phones, to interview people, to analyze those videos, analyze other databases. And after all of that, there's been hundreds and hundreds of leads done just in 24 hours. We're confident at this point that there's no accomplices. And I'll give you an idea of how that information sometimes, a lot of the early reports came out that there were extra people that were setting the coolers down, right? It turns out those were just patrons on the street that were looking inside the coolers, right? Well, we didn't know that at first. So we had to kind of track all that down and put that to rest. So that's just an example, one of the pieces of information, but there were other pieces of information that after we got our feet under us a little bit and on the ground here, we were able to put together a much more accurate picture of the subject and his attention.
Deputy Director, a couple things.
The updated death toll, we just wanted to double check.
Yes.
14, not 15.
Yeah.
Sorry.
14, and then the shooter himself would be 15 total, to include the shooter.
And to clarify a couple things, the IEDs, were the IEDs pipe bombs, and have you discovered a remote detonator anywhere? And when you said that you have surveillance footage of the suspect planting those IEDs, what time roughly were they planted?
Yeah, those roughly a couple hours. I don't have the exact times in front of me. A couple hours prior to the
before midnight, after
attack.
you know,
probably after midnight. After midnight. I want to say 1 or 2 in the morning.
So
but
he left the area and came back.
Correct. That's our assumption now. I mean, we still have a lot to work through. We're getting more surveillance video and everything else, but that's the assumption.
And were there sweeps being done? Were there sweeps being done on Bourbon Street? Would there have been canines out on New Year's Eve? Would there have been bomb sweeps done as part of the regular precautions?
Let me just say this, and either Joe or Rob will correct me. Look, a bomb dog doesn't operate like a drug dog, right? On Bourbon Street, there's a lot of senses, right? A lot of smells. I don't think you can run a bomb dog down Bourbon Street with thousands of people there and be able to sniff out a bomb. What we've been doing, what they have been doing, is certainly a complete sweep of the quarter because of the limited amount of traffic that's been out there. Let me just say this. I think this may help. It would be my hope that as some additional time goes through, maybe closer to maybe the beginning of next week, we will, if we've got it to what extent buttoned up as we could, I would work with the FBI and the city, and maybe we can come up with a timeline to be able to get you those informations, kind of walk everyone through from day one through. I think it's extremely premature, and you're really putting us on some speculative grounds to ask some of those questions, because again, it's only been 24 hours. I mean, can you imagine how far we've come in 24 hours? So
can you just clarify if there was pipe bombs and a remote detonator? Sure.
Well, we'll go one at a time.
Being done to make Bourbon Street safer tonight than it was New Year's Eve? Are temporary bollards being brought in to block off the street, and why weren't those used on New Year's Eve?
Well, look, here's what I'm going to say. Every time some bad guy does something like this, there's what we call an after action review. Because again, nothing is 100%. We have reinforced the area. We have deployed some additional types of assets.
Oh my gosh, this governor. Okay,
I personally,
we'll get him.
It's up to the city or other. I don't like to give specifics because I don't like to tell the enemy what we got. But I can tell you we're in better shape than we were before.
If you can't hear me on
Director Ray, excuse me, what brought him down this road?
Folks. But this governor, oh jeez, stand by. We're going to talk.
Was there a fire there? Any kind of burning happening?
Yeah, great.
Do you still believe that fire happened after the suspect was killed?
That's correct. Yeah, I'll move to 18. I do want to address the suicide vest question. I want to kill that one right away. There was no evidence that the subject was wearing a suicide vest at all. So I will turn the Mandeville stuff over to ATF.
As to the fire at the Mandeville scene, so our working theory now is that the fire started after Jabbar was already deceased. There's a lot of different ways that can happen. You could have different time devices. You could have a long cord that extended that time. You could also have pressure cookers that were put on top of the stove filled with gasoline, and then it went off. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that is why our ATF National Response Team is here to answer those questions and get that investigative lead back to our team. So more to come on that. We're still processing that scene. We're out there right now.
What do we understand about how he became radicalized over all of this time? What brought him to Bourbon Street? Do we understand?
Finally, a good question from a reporter.
What led him down
Jeez.
this path to this sort of radicalization?
Sure, a lot of questions we're still asking ourselves. We know that he specifically picked out Bourbon Street. Not quite sure why. I mean, I think one can assume that it was lots of people New Year's Eve, with a target for an attack. That's the stuff in the coming days, as far as that path to radicalization, that we're really going to be digging into and making a priority of. So what I can tell you right now is that he was 100% inspired by ISIS. And so we're digging through more of the social media, more interviews, working with some of our other partners to ascertain just how to ascertain a little bit more about that connection.
Mayor, what gives you the confidence?
We're gonna do one more. Kate.
Right there. You've had your hand up for a while.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's actually for Special Agent Wright. Sir,
I prefer those. I'm with you.
In order to reassure people, would you be able to explain the analysis and evidence that has led to this most recent understanding that he was a lone actor and that there is at this point, at least from your understanding, no further danger to the public?
Sure. I think a lot of that, multiple interviews, the hundreds of interviews that we've conducted so far, the social media review that we've done of his accounts, by my count now, the 5 devices we have, the 3 cell phones and the 2 laptops, been able to initially triage or go through that. And there is just nothing to indicate through call records, through anything on those devices, through interviews, through anything in our systems, that he was aided in this attack by anybody. And again, I have to caveat, like the governor said, it's just 24 hours into it. And that could change, but right now we've got a much better picture and much more confidence on what we were dealing with than we were just 20.
Mayor, what gives you the confidence?
All right, look, thank y'all so very much. Again,
Mayor, what gives you the confidence
again,
to say
we are
to people
going
that
to
they
try
can
to
come
get
to
y'all
your
as
city for
much
big events?
information as possible. So any additional information will be put out through press releases. Thank you so very much.
Are we
Mayor.
going to be making Bourbon Street a pedestrian only? Or are we going to be allowing cars to drive on them?
Okay. So that's the end of that press conference. All right, we learned a lot on that press conference, and I want to talk about some of it. And then we're also going to talk about Las Vegas and connection or no connection of whatever it is. Okay, so let's talk about what we learned. And I thought it was some really good stuff that we learned. Okay, here. So if you guys are ready for this conversation, let me know. TikTok, if you're ready, make sure you smash those hearts or whatever. And so let's talk about it. 2 devices, IED. Well, I thought this is a big thing. The special agent there said 100% inspired by ISIS. That's what they believe. 100%. That's what they're saying. Okay? According to them. How did that happen? Finally, towards the end, a reporter asked the pertinent question. What do we know about how he was radicalized? Everybody else asking, oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. Okay. So let's see. 14 people plus the shooter unalived. So that's a total of 15. Okay, 14 plus the shooter. All right, 14 plus the shooter. 2 devices, 2 IEDs found on Bourbon Street. There's footage of him placing those devices. If we can find that footage, it would be great. There's footage of him placing those devices. There's also people who were looking at the coolers because they were in coolers. And these coolers sort of reminds me of, Boston and all that, right? The marathon. And they were looking, they said, these people, they don't think that they had anything to do with it. They were just checking out the coolers and there was a device in there. The folks had no idea what it was. So they were trying to figure it out. See something, say something. That would have been a great opportunity to do it. I don't believe that happened. Okay, so they're looking at everything in his life. They want to talk to everyone he knows. They still don't know anyone in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day they want. They said it's very early on in the investigation. They don't believe that there's a connection. I'm going to get to this, to Vegas and NOLA, except it is reported that both suspects did serve at Fort Bragg. Okay. Let's see. They're asking the FBI, if you know, FBI, www.fbi.gov, Bourbon Street attack, or 1-800 call Bourbon. Excuse me, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Okay. We heard from the mayor, LaToya Cantrell, and we also heard from Governor Jeff Landry there. I don't know what the governor was trying to accomplish there. I think the governor should let the professionals do most of the talking. Remember, this is the same governor who's been saying we need, what is he saying? We need the 10 Commandments in schools. It's just, Governor, please. They're getting the Bourbon Street is going to be open by 2:30 for the Super Bowl. They're going to pre-Super Bowl. It's going to be open. And remember, I'm sorry, Sugar Bowl, excuse me, not Super Bowl. Remember that the Sugar Bowl is happening today. It was supposed to happen yesterday. It was postponed. The Super Bowl is about to happen there, and Mardi Gras. So they've got a lot to be prepared for. Right now, they said that Bourbon Street and New Orleans is the safest place. It is. There's tons of law enforcement. I'm sure it's one of the safest spots in America. This mayor, where he's the governor, who's talking about we need to crush evil and whatever. Is it evil? And don't get me wrong, good and evil, whatever. Or is it just people who have mental illness, who've been co-opted, who have access to weapons of mass destruction? Or is it easy to just say, this is good, this is evil, this is good, this is evil? Because I think that's the easy thing to say. Oh my gosh, we gotta he said something about we gotta crush the evil. We have to crush evil. We have to crush the disinformation and the ignorance and the access to weapons. And we have to fund our men and women in uniform and Americans who are dealing with issues. This is not just about crushing evil. That's too simplistic. That's just a saying. Let's crush evil. It's just like one of those, the things you throw out, like build a wall, crush evil. How do you do that? How do we do that? We have to prevent these things from happening. We need to be sensible about our gun legislation. We need to be sensible about terrorism and our terrorism legislation, and about pointing out exactly who the terrorists are. We need to Americans to understand that terrorism comes in many forms, from an incident like this to January 6th. And we need to, if that's what we need to crush, is the mindset and the ignorance surrounding such things. That's how we should be talking, not just to crush evil. And oh my gosh, come on, Governor, give me a break. Give me a break. So that's what we learned there. But we're going to talk about Vegas. But before we do, I just want to, our friends over at MSNBC, especially Simone Sanders. Simone is focused on the real people, the people who are really affected by this, and that is the victims. Let's listen.
Victims who were tragically killed in that New Orleans attack. A Princeton graduate, father of two, an aspiring nurse, a young mother. Their lives all cut way too short as they celebrated the promise of a new year. Police say the majority of those killed were local residents. Here is Martin Tiger Beck. He grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana, and went on to graduate from Princeton University. At the time of his death, he was living in New York City and working on Wall Street. Martin played football at Princeton and trained with his younger brother, Jack. Martin was on Bourbon Street with his Princeton teammate, Ryan Quigley, who was injured in the attack. Martin's mother stated that his death now leaves a huge void in their lives. Reggie Hunter was just 37 years old. He was from Baton Rouge. Now, Reggie was the father of two boys, age 11 and 1, and worked as a manager at a warehouse. Reggie is described by his cousin as an awesome person with a big heart. This is 18-year-old Nakira Cheyenne Didu. She was a recent high school graduate from Gulfport, Mississippi. Nakira was with her cousin celebrating the new year. Later this month, she was set to start college and planned on studying nursing. Her mother is asking for prayers at this time. Matthew Tenedorio was only 25 years old. He was born in Manola, New York, but lived in Carrier, Mississippi. He had dinner with his mother Tuesday night before going to celebrate New Year's with his friends. The next time she saw him was at the morgue. His mother said he had the job of his dreams working at the Superdome. This is Nicole Perez. Nicole was only 27 years old. She managed a deli near New Orleans. Now, Nicole, she leaves behind a 5-year-old son. Her employer remembered her as a really good mom. And lastly, Hubert Gothrow was 21 years old. A statement from his high school in Mario, Louisiana, is asking for prayers during this difficult time. These are real people, their stories, all cut far too short by a senseless act that is now being investigated as terrorism.
Nakira Cheyenne Dido, a recent high school graduate, was killed. Her grandmother, Jennifer Smith, told the New York Times. Her mother, Melissa Dido, said Wednesday on Facebook that her daughter was killed and asked for prayers. When your parents say, don't go anywhere, please listen to them. This was an act of terrorism, and now my baby is gone, y'all, she wrote. My baby is gone. She is no longer with us. Those are the people we need to be honoring today. Yeah, we need to focus on why it happened, a lot of focus on the suspect or whatever, but this suspect, just rewards and just desserts for the suspect. But let's not forget who the real victims are and the folks who should be highlighted here. And the folks who should be highlighted here. Let's go to Vegas now. And the breaking news out of Las Vegas is the news on exactly what happened with that truck. There was an explosion that happened. The latest news, and there was a press conference that also happened recently there as well in Las Vegas. The breaking news is that the person who rented this Tesla Cybertruck that was used in an explosion outside the entrance of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas has been identified as an active duty member of the U.S. Army's elite special forces unit, 2 U.S. defense officials said. Another member of our military. And these folks coming into office want to cut some of that funding. Reportedly. You guys down with that? Maggie, you down with that? Cutting the funding? Read the reports, y'all, about who wants to cut the money to what. When we have these military members, where someone, who was it that put in the, I read it moments ago and I forget the name. Should they be giving more money to the military and more psychiatric examinations? Huh? There are folks who are coming into office right now who want to cut military funding for that. The truck was rented to Matthew Allen Levelsberger. 2 senior law enforcement officials told NBC News, but it was not immediately clear whether that was the identity of the person who was killed inside the vehicle when it erupted into flames early Wednesday outside the Trump International Hotel, or who may have been responsible for the explosion. An Army spokesperson said that Levelsberger was on approved leave at the time of the incident and assigned to the U.S. Army Special Operations Command. He entered the active duty Army in December of 2012 after serving in the National Guard and Army Reserve. Meanwhile, federal law enforcement agents began searching a residence in Colorado Springs, Colorado, connected to this case, and were expected to be on site for several hours, the agency said in a statement. This activity is related to the explosion in Las Vegas, the FBI said, declining to provide further details. It's being investigated as a possible terrorist attack, 3 senior law enforcement members said. A motive has yet to be established. Here's a report on the Las Vegas happenings.
Well, Giovanni, it was just after 8:40 this morning when that Tesla Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel near Las Vegas Boulevard. Tonight, authorities telling us they know what caused that explosion to happen, but are still working to piece together a motive. Tonight, one person is dead and 7 others injured after a 2024 Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel on Las Vegas Boulevard. A surveillance camera on property capturing the moment the truck blew up, leaving behind a plume of smoke and debris near the hotel's entrance.
We're looking directly into Trump Tower from our room, and then I saw there was a second explosion. So I heard one and then saw the other one actually happen, and it was like fireworks were shooting off.
Investigators confirmed a body was found inside the Cybertruck. Authorities are still working to identify them.
So that's what's happening. We have, I believe, several of, I want to show you just how this happened. Do we have some video of this truck? That was from the Associated Press. Look at look at how that happened. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think I'm not sure what else that you have gathered, producers, but just play it.
The battery blew, I think.
Is that it? That's the only thing we have, right?
We do have the Las Vegas sheriff speaking, but that may be a little dated at this point.
Let's hear what he has to say, and then we'll figure it out.
40, when a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm gonna show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors. Can you play that again, Carlos? So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased, still in the truck as we speak here today. Our fire department folks, Engine 12, a number of others, you'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment, arrived very quickly along with my officers. And obviously we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so there's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with the tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump Hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
So that's the press conference that they were giving. Believe that was yesterday. Now, the press conference that they had today, they said that they did not believe that this was connected to New Orleans. Now, we don't know for sure about any of this, but that's what they're saying to us. Okay. Now, there was someone who was in at the hotel at the time, and I'm going to send this to you, producers. Maybe we can get them on the line, but make sure that they were there and they have some information before you get them on the line. Okay. Okay. So let's just be honest about this. We've been talking about cutting the funding. That, again, I don't want to spread conspiracy theories. This is we don't know. This is all new. Both of these people, at least now what they know, are alleged to be, I should say that the alleged perpetrators are said to be, or reported to be, from law enforcement, either former members of the military, veterans, or active duty members. In order to do this, there has to be some issues going on. What is happening to our military folks? And then there are folks who want to come in now and cut the funding. And then you have, remember who is in charge of this new government thing that's going to save money, right? Remember what's happening. Who is that? Who owns the company that the truck was made by? And who owns the building where it exploded? Could be a coincidence. Could be a coincidence. But what do you think about that? I don't know what is going to come out of there, but what do you think about that? What do you think about that? The thing that I sent you, just so you guys, so I can't keep, it's someone who reached out to me who has video, okay, of the incident and who was nearby. My producers are asking me a question. I just wanted to answer them quickly so that I wouldn't have to keep texting them. So wouldn't have to keep texting them. Do you guys understand what I'm saying about this? Who owns the building? Who owns the company that produces the truck? And members of the military, and what kind of funding? Again, it has to be investigated. So I don't want to start anything. But it's certainly, to me, it is concerning that that is happening because I don't know what is going on here. It could be some it's most likely some anti-government person. You heard what Christopher Wray said, that what's going to happen as it relates to these incidents moving forward. Is it some anti-MAGA person? Is it some anti-Doge person? Is it some person who's upset with, or is it just someone who is having an issue? But again, they say it's not connected to New Orleans, but think about what is there's a connection here. If you look at what's going on, there is a connection here for that. I don't know. But what I do know is that this is all very concerning, and it is not a good way to start the year. Why would he unalive himself? It's not a coincidence, this curry favor. I don't know. What do you guys think? Again, no conspiracy theories, but I will agree with what Jackie says. Raise support for veterans' mental health. Yes, I agree 100%. The timing is questionable, says Linda. Yes. Cheryl Gibson doesn't believe it's a coincidence. We don't know yet, Cheryl, but you are not starting anything. You're opposing a question, says Renee Hutchins. I'm just using common sense, right? Renee? It was rented through the same app, either on NBC or ABC. I'm not sure exactly what that means. You have to explain it to me. Concerning is right. Absolutely not a good way to says Takaya. So that's what I have for you guys today. What do you think this is? America, you need to stand up to do what's right and not be so politically divided. MAGA folks, you need to have an open mind about these things. Look at these anti-government sentiment that we have, the anti-establishment, the anti-the-man that we, with the whole Luigi Mangione part of this. Americans are speaking out now saying they're so frustrated in the system of our healthcare system, in our health insurance system, that they don't agree with what he did, but they understand. Is that where this is going to continue going? 2025 starting off, says Amanda Belcher, the beginning of very 4 chaotic years, asking that question, is it going to be? Perhaps this is an omen. I hope that it's not. They haven't positively ID'd the bomber, ergo no pick, says Mo Wash. Yes. Lisa G says, sorry, the vehicles in both NOLA and Vegas were both rentals through the same app. My source was either ABC or NBC, flipping back and forth. They said that the special agent in New Orleans now said that they don't believe that there's any connection, but it is early on. App rental is irrelevant, says Helen P., because a lot of people rent on apps. You can go to, Expedia. You can go to different rental places, different systems. Rented through a new car rental system. M. Moy says, Newsweek has a pic of the guy in the Vegas explosion. Producers, if we can look that up and find it and see if we have it. To see if we have it, because I would love to be able to get that up as soon as possible.
The pic is up, Don.
I'm sorry?
The picture is up.
So this is the Vegas guy. Correct?
Yes, that is what we found.
Member of the military, there with a long weapon. A long pew-pew. What is going on here, guys? Are you guys not concerned about this? Green Herbs and Juice, I'm not sure if they said in the Army together, but they said that both served at Fort Bragg. That is the report. I'm concerned about this, and I'm concerned about our military members. So now, if this is indeed, according to Newsweek, if this is a second shooter, the second attack suspect, and if it's indeed terrorism, how do you feel about this? It looks like a white guy. Do you feel differently? MAGA? Both were born here in America. Their names sound a bit different. They look different. But if it's indeed true, if it is indeed terrorism, then they both committed the same act. Nikki, they said call back. Then it is indeed the same or similar act. We don't know the motivation behind it, all the specifics, but judging right now at the surface, if that person is indeed the person in that news picture from Newsweek, according to Newsweek, and you look at the person in New Orleans, one's brown, one's white, both accused or suspected of terrorism at this point. Vegas has not been confirmed. I just want to, facts are important. But if it turns out to be that, how then do you feel? How do you separate the two in your mind and you make them different things? Because you'll look at the person in New Orleans because they are brown and they have a Muslim sounding last name. And you'll say, oh my God, it's terrorism. And the president-elect will tweet out a post. Their enemies are coming from outside. And that's, I told you guys that. But will he do the same thing about the Las Vegas person at his hotel in a Tesla truck who is a white guy? Is he going to say coming from outside? Is he going to say, no, he can't say coming from outside. Is he going to say, again, I preface this by saying, if it's indeed true, is he going to say that we need to fix our homegrown domestic terrorism problem? And listen to me really good. Domestic terrorism, as I have said before, and so is Christopher Wray, are mostly people who are radicalized on the right, white men. Now, the guy in New Orleans is a brown person. An anomaly. Doesn't happen that much. It's still wrong, and it does occur. But for the most part, it is usually a right-wing radicalized person doing it for racist reasons. That's not just me. That's according to the head of the FBI. Maybe one of the reasons that he's being kicked out is because he's saying real shit like that. Will he come out strong against domestic terrorism and say we need to stop all of these enemies from within who are born in this country, who are right-wing, radicalized white guys? We need to stop that. Is he going to say that? Anyone? Bueller? Do you think he'll say that? Answer me. What do you guys think? Both are bad. I'm just trying to make a distinction. What I'm trying to prove to you here and show you guys is the hypocrisy of Donald Trump and the MAGA folks. Because anyone can be co-opted from any different background. So just as January 6th, those people who have been convicted and who are found guilty are terrorists. Get them on the line if we can, Nikki. Just as those people are terrorists, they have been convicted. And just as the attacker in New Orleans is a terrorist if convicted, you need to send it to her. You send it to me, Nikki, the link. Just as that they are, I want to do it now if we can. And the person in Vegas, if it is indeed true, they would all be considered terrorists of different ethnicities and backgrounds, but all equally committing the same acts The only difference is the distinction that you make in your head, because when you see the person, you try to make excuses for the person who looks like you. And no, that person's not a terrorist. Mental health. We need to take care of our mental health system, these poor people or whatever. Yeah. Even the guy with the Muslim sounding last name has to be given the same sort of thought process that you do with the January 6th person. Because you're saying, well, the January 6th person is different because they were fed up with the system. Maybe this guy is an excuse for being fed up with the system. Maybe the Vegas person is fed up with the system. You guys. I don't know what else to tell you. I would like to know what you guys have to say about this. Maybe you disagree with me. And again, we're all going on at this point. What if these things are equal? In your mind, how then do you make a distinction to try to separate them? No excuse for extremism, says Sherry Baby 80. 150% you're right. James Brem believes that the president-elect and the administration will say nothing to see here. That's how they'll handle it. That's what they will say. Renee Hutchinson, you're right. Homegrown terrorism. Linda, displaced anger. I agree. He won't say it, and his followers will not hear the real story, says Patty Willis. Can be a terrorist if they're not stating a political reason for what they did. Can it be terrorism? It's a mess. Murder. Kylie Karma, thank you for your support of independent media. Kylie Karma says, Don, we are talking about white Republican criminal. He isn't going to speak up against anyone who is white and breaks the law unless they are named Hunter. Thank you, Don. Exactly, says Silver23. What is going on at Fort Bragg, says Lisa G. I want to know that too. Sabrina 9 is talking about the members of Doge, says they called them lazy and mentally incompetent, the R word. And they sent their brightest with a Cybertruck to make, well, I don't believe that. I don't know. We don't know that. Send a Cybertruck to make a point. I don't know that. Robin Dope says the military thing is very concerning. So many mentally ill people in this country, says Rhonda Woke. I don't know what's going on here, and it is very concerning to me, and it should be very concerning to you. (82nd Airborne Division). Major Division, one of the first to deploy, says pouring my heart out for you. Is that the division that they believe that he was in? Is that what it is? We're trying to get someone who was in the area of Las Vegas to speak about it. So let me know if we get them up. In the meantime, YouTube, I want to go to some of the folks who have joined us or watching us on TikTok. Military veterans need help, says Ms. Belize. Teddy Mom said, it is known you can go nuts in the military. They need more help and resources. I agree. He is a Green Beret 5th unit, says Shannon Weisnor. Joanne says, I really think something crazy is about to happen. It's scary as hell. I don't disagree with you. It's frightening. It's concerning because this is how the year is starting off. Charles Bond says, roosters are coming home to crow. America FAFO. I hope not. David M. believes that radical Democrats to make their points. That's why fireworks used in Vegas, not to blow up. We don't know what it is. It could be someone who is left-leaning. We don't know. D. Nice, the vet, says you need to interview prior military. I agree. We will work on that to talk about these things. Randy says, FBI says Jabbar acted alone. Truth, not sure. They said that they are questioning. It's early on, and they want to talk to everyone. I want to show you some of the video that's from a further vantage point of what was happening in Las Vegas. This is from a person who was on the ground and who sent it to the Don Lemon Show. Here it is. Do we have the video in the system yet?
That's at Trump Tower too.
And that's a smoke in the blast from across the way. Now, at the beginning of this, was there an explosion right at the top? Back it up, can we see? No.
Trump Tower too.
Yeah. And there's another video. I believe it's more of the same. And this video is from Morgan, who is a Don Lemon Show watcher.
You see the smoke coming out of there still?
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
And there you see the emergency workers who are on the scene. So that's what we know about Las Vegas. And so we were going to get Morgan to come on to discuss it, but we haven't been in touch with Morgan. I mean, we haven't gotten Morgan yet. We wanted her to come on and speak about it. This is very concerning, guys, starting the year. And so to all the victims of that, and even in order to be able to do this, you have to be in some mental anguish and distress. And so while these people have been accused of committing horrible acts, and it is indeed killing many people, we need to figure out why they're doing this. Why are they doing this? What pushes someone to get to this, to have this much anger, this much hate, this much pain, this much sorrow, to be able to do this? And we can't forget about the victims. And we have to stop politicizing it and racializing it and dividing it between religions and this sort of thing. That's what we have to do. No Morgan yet, right, producers?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. What I will say to you is, to everyone watching on every platform that we're on, and we have many, many people watching us today who are engaged with this. Whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on the YT, the Tube, whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, we appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, and all of that affects the algorithm, and more people can become part of our community. And let me just say this to all of the folks who are the members. We have our producers are telling me we have so many members who are new members today. Metman USA says, you push more hate than anyone. Have I pushed anybody to hate anybody? I have not said any. I said we need to be more open-minded about this. I think you are acting from MAGA brain. Is it meth man or met man? I think you're acting from MAGA brain because you want to see something that's not there. I just said that we needed to know the truth and that we could not try to make distinctions about different races and have different standards. That's not hate, that's the truth. So you may be acting on your MAGA brain and you just don't like me because for a host of different reasons, but what you cannot say is that I push hate and that I'm lying because I tell you the truth. I just gave you the facts. And I said we don't want to push conspiracy theories. So I feel really bad for you. I'm sorry that you're in what we call, what the folks who are drugs or say a K-hole, or you're in the sunken place, if you really believe that. So thank you to all the new members that we have. Thank you for the folks who are supporting. I know. Thank you, guys. I realize that. I realize that we're not, and that I'm not doing. I just want people. I just want to read that, and I don't mind responding to these folks. And again, this is a show for you. Okay, we're getting Morgan. Okay, this is a show for you, and I've been informed that we're getting Morgan, who is across the street, not far from where the Vegas thing. And we don't know what Morgan's going to tell us. I have not spoken to Morgan. Morgan is a watcher and a supporter and sent in that video. So we're just going to talk until we get Morgan on. So let me know, producers, when we get Morgan on. So no, yes, that meth man or whatever it is in a cult. He has a cult mindset. And that's when everyone's like, oh, it's a cult. I'm talking to the people who are actually in the cult. There are people, you may support Donald Trump for a number of different reasons. If you're a Republican supporting Donald Trump, doesn't mean that you are MAGA. MAGA is a whole different thing.
Don, we have Morgan.
Okay, let's get Morgan on. I can't see Morgan.
Yeah, she's just going to be able to use audio right now.
Okay, so then we don't have to put our box up. We can just put her and Morgan on the phone. Hi, Morgan. How are you? Morgan, are you there? Can you unmute? Okay, we can't hear Morgan. Could we hear Morgan before? I don't hear Morgan. Nikki?
We'll work on it. Just stand by.
Okay. So someone says I'm a liberal, DC. I'm not a liberal. That's, see, you don't know. That's, again, MAGA stupid, MAGA brain. It needs a lobotomy, or perhaps at least a cult needs, they need to be deprogrammed, because if you know, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a conservative, and I'm also not a Republican. Okay. Jay Cooper, I did not, you were able to see what I sent about the info. No, I'm not. You were, should be. No, Jay, you have to send it to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. Deprogrammed is crazy. Yes, deprogrammed, especially if you have MAGA brain like that.
Hi, Don.
Morgan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for reaching out to me through social media. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
Go on.
Immediately I thought about, as soon as we heard the explosion, we ran to the window, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a bomb. And I wanted to get you right away in on it before nobody even knew what was going on, because our view was immediate, and the sound was so intense. So we were I think we were the first one that noticed what's going on. It was crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
I should be asking you, Morgan, by the way, thank you for joining us. I should be asking you how you are doing. How are you doing?
I'm good.
This can be traumatizing.
It was very traumatizing, because we were on the 38th floor of the Wynn. Obviously, we were staying there for New Year's, and I didn't know what was, happening next. All I knew is that it was an explosion, and it was, huge, and it was scary. It was scary, but as soon as the police arrived, we knew that it was kind of isolated to that hotel, and we were safe where we were at.
So they didn't know talk of like, you know, people going to a safer place. By the way, I've stayed in that hotel and I've had a very similar view. And it's interesting because when you open the window, did you have the room where you hit the curtain button and it opens everything?
Yes,
The lights
yes,
on and
yes.
whatever. And then it opens
Yep.
up. And the first thing you see is what out of your window?
The first thing we see is the Trump Hotel. And no, I know.
So you had a very clear view of it. So look, I'm glad that you're okay. So take me through what happened. What
Yeah.
time did it happen? What were you doing? And then what did you see?
It was early. It was, 8:30 in the morning, 8:30-ish in the morning, and we were sleeping. It was after New Year's Eve. We had been up, late. And so we heard one explosion. And at first we thought like, there was like a crane or something that had dropped something. Then again, another explosion. Then again, another explosion. And that's when we jumped up, opened the curtains, and clear view, we see smoke come. Yeah,
Back up. You saw smoke coming where?
out of the Trump Hotel lobby area.
Okay. Did we lose Morgan?
Oh,
I think the connection is a little spotty.
Don?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So we lost, so we jumped out, opened the curtains. We see smoke coming out of where the entrance area of Trump Hotel is. And there's an awning, so we couldn't see the truck at that time. We just knew when we heard 5 pops, we knew it was an explosion. It was a bomb. It was something. And I immediately, we were freaked out, but I wanted to video and be able to, kind of document what was happening. But it was scary, and you did not see anyone running. You didn't see anyone, any cars moving. And it took a good, I would say about 7 minutes for the police to arrive. And you can see in my video, us saying, "Oh, here comes the police, here comes the police." So, yeah, it was crazy. The sound was unreal. It was unbelievable. We didn't know if a plane had crashed with that loud boom. It was insane. The sound was insane.
We have the video of your. We can just play it silently so that folks can see it. But you heard the explosion first, or were you happen to be looking out of the window? Sorry.
No. We heard the explosion. We heard this loud bang, and then bang again, and then bang, pop. Bang, pop again, and bang again. And that's the 4th or 3rd time. We ran to the window and I grabbed my phone. We could see the black smoke coming out of that kind of lobby area. And I started to take video. And it was, we didn't know what was happening. We couldn't see the truck.
Yeah, I was going to say, Morgan, now, did they remove the awning? Did the awning?
No,
it's
that cement kind of, that cement.
I see it up front. I wasn't
ceiling.
sure. I wasn't clear if it was cement or if it was a
No,
made up material. But yeah, it is. It's a permanent.
It's cement.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And to the right, I don't think I have it on the video, but you could see slowly people coming out of the back of the hotel, coming to the parking lot. Nobody was running. Nobody was, we could see them walking, and my husband's like, well, maybe they're trying to kind of keep everybody in order, not having anyone panic. And I said, I don't know about you, but if there was 5 explosions at a hotel where I was staying at, I'd be running as fast as I can. So that's when we realized that nobody knew what was going on. It was almost like the front of the hotel had no connection, there was nobody there. I don't know. It was strange. It was just bizarre. It was
Have you
bizarre.
have you been so wait, one more before I get to that. How are folks reacting? Have you been out and about since this happened?
No, we came back home. We got back home yesterday.
And
So
when
we
you
live
were
in
there,
that.
were people discussing it? What was the concern level?
Yeah, I mean, we were walking around like with our Uber driver, taxi driver, when we were going to the airport. We discussed it with him. He said, that people were fearing that we're still in Vegas. And you could see the shock in people's faces as we were walking out. But nobody knew what was going on. Nobody, could make sense of it. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Nothing was on the news. No, we kept flipping channels. I kept, flipping channels. And of course, I'm desperately trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, Don, there
Yeah.
was an explosion. And because there was nobody coming, we were like, what is happening? Where's the police? Where's the ambulance? There is no doubt in our minds that this was a bomb, explosive, what have you.
Well, I got to say that you were pretty early on because it was
It was early.
it was 12. You said it was 8 o'clock your time, right?
It was 8, yeah, like 8 a.m. ish, around roughly, or 8:39. It was early on. It was
Because
very
you
early.
because at 12:28, which was around that time, you said, "Hi Don, I have pictures and video of the Trump Tower explosion. My husband and I are at the Wynn with clear view in Las Vegas. Please call me." I'm not going to give out your
Yeah.
phone. And then I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
"Oh my God!" Later, I said, "I'm just seeing this. What do you have?" So I missed it because it's a holiday.
I
and
know.
I
I
was
know. I
in the
know.
kitchen. I got to be honest with you, cooking my cabbage, black eyed peas, and cornbread.
I love it.
Right, which is a
Oh,
New Year's tradition. But let me say,
yes.
I'm glad that you're safe. I want to ask you: have you been paying attention to this and New Orleans?
Yes, I have.
What do you
Yes.
think?
I definitely think there is a connection, because they did say that it was, you know the both vehicles were rented from the same place. I find that very odd. Um, I think there's a connection. I think definitely the Cybertruck at the Trump Hotel was obvious sign. And New Orleans, I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
It is
But
concerning. I mean, especially look, the authorities or officials, I should say, in New Orleans held a press conference, and the assistant person in charge, I can't. I'm trying to get the two stories to distinguish between the stories. Special agent in charge deputy special agent said that they don't believe there was a connection to Vegas at this point, but it's early on. But it certainly is odd when you think about it. And I've been saying,
I know.
a Tesla truck at the Trump thing. Look at who owns both of those things, and then you have New Orleans. So it's maybe it's coincidence. I don't want to do a conspiracy theory, but to start 2025 off like this, But your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It was crazy. And I told my husband, I said, "Hey, this is the beginning of I don't really know. It's pretty scary." We live in California, we're always kind of a target here too, the big cities. We're in Los Angeles. And so it's scary. I told, we have a 19-year-old son, and I said, listen, um, you know, we got to be careful because this is going to be very scary moving forward. There's a lot of people that are angry. There's a lot of people that, aren't really fond of the Elon Musk Trump, partnership. And um, this the Trump Tower thing was, you know, it was very obvious. I mean, it was crazy obvious. New Orleans, I'm trying to still make sense of it. That was just heartbreaking. absolute heartbreaking.
So Morgan, thank you very much. And I'm glad that you are a supporter, that you follow us on social media, and I hope you watch us on the tube.
Absolutely.
And I hope
You
that you're a
got it.
Lemonhead. So make sure that
Absolutely. I've been a Lemonhead for a long time.
I'm so glad that you're
Big
part.
fan.
Thank you of the
Yeah,
Lemon Nation. So we appreciate you
of
joining us.
course.
How's your husband? Is he good?
He's good. Thank you so much. Happy
Thank
New
you
Year,
so much.
Don.
Happy New Year. Thanks for reaching out. So that was
No,
Morgan, who is an eyewitness. Morgan, thank you. Who is an
thank you.
eyewitness to, not at the Trump Hotel, but she was across the street at the Wynn Hotel and experiencing it from outside of our window. That's why I love our community, that you can get involved like this, that you can. It's not just that you're gonna take your video and say, oh, this is what happened. We're gonna put you on and we're gonna speak to you. So this is a 360 experience, so to speak. And if you joined us on New Year's Eve, then you know that we had our own subscribers and members on the program. They were actually on. And you can do that too if you become a member, if you become a subscriber. So make sure you do that. I want to thank all of you and for being a part of the Lemon Nation, and for being Lemonheads. So, and all of the new subscribers or new members that we have right now, it really, really means the world to us. Thanks for helping us build this community. We're loving it that we're doing it from the bottom up. And so it's great. So I appreciate all of you. If you're on TikTok, thank you. I appreciate all of your comments. Make sure you follow us and hit the heart button, smash the screen, as they say, and whatever platform you're following us on or you're watching us on, make sure you follow us and you hit the like button. Okay. We will see you. We have some other stuff planned for you today, but I went on much longer than I wanted to go on because we had breaking news today. We're supposed to do an hour, as we are every day, or at least 30 minutes to an hour. And here we are. We've been on since just after 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it's almost 1 o'clock Eastern. So I appreciate you joining us. Happy New Year. And by the way, I hope you had your New Year's stuff that you're supposed to eat for good luck: cabbage or collard greens, pork chops, some sort of pork, some sort of meat, black-eyed peas, cornbread. That's what I did all day yesterday. And boy, it was the best meal, I believe my best meal yet. It's delicious. And I smell Tim is already warming some up for lunch. I think he's already eaten, and I'm going to go eat. And then I'll see you later on today. All right. Be safe, everybody. Let's try to at least come together and be kind to each other. Even if we disagree politically, we can vehemently fight it out. And I don't mean physical fights. And this whole idea about civility, people aren't civil right now. People are matching. I'm matching the energy that MAGA is putting out so that they can understand how it feels to be spoken to in a certain way. What's good for the MAGA is good for the non-MAGA folks as far as rhetoric and how you speak to people. If you think that I'm divisive, if you don't like what I say, then talk to your guy and tell him to tone it down as well. And you do in the comments. Don't be haters. Don't be trolls if you don't want to get trolled. Trolls get rolled here. See ya. We are thrilled to have you as one of our watchers. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. And that way you can be notified about all of our new content. There's plenty of it for you. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop more videos at 2 p.m. Eastern and at 5 p.m. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon Nation, of the Lemon community. Members receive access to special community posts, exclusive content, and live shows. So just head right over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching.